and Washington State, a little Pac-12 action. We've got Utah 7.5, 8-point road favorites in the Palouse in Pullman. 56 the total in this game. The Utah Utes, certainly a team that they've come up short in a couple of their big time games this year earlier on, Florida and UCLA, but they finally emerged on the winning side of one of these big games with a 43-42 win against USC a couple weeks ago, but did not cover, though. Should point that out. 3.5-point home favorites. They only win that game by a single point, but they pulled out a great game against USC. It was back and forth, very entertaining. It's pretty funny to see this Kyle Whittingham team. Kyle Whittingham teams, we think for years, run the football, play slow down. They're not a big explosive offense, and they're a great defensive team. It's been kind of the opposite this year. It's not been the same Utah defense. They're getting ripped apart in some of these games. Even the win against USC, Caleb Williams in that offense there, Travis Dye on the ground, Jordan Addison, the great receiver that transferred from Pitt. I mean, they're going up and down the field against Utah's defense. UCLA up and down the field against Utah's defense. Couldn't really shut down Florida in the first game of the year when it mattered. So, the Utah defense hasn't been nearly the same this year, but their offense might be the best offense I've seen out of a Utah team since, Urban Meyer when he coached there and Alex Smith was the quarterback. I mean, maybe we have to go all the way back to those days. I think the last time we've seen Utah look this good on offense. But Cam Rising's been excellent. They've got playmakers. They've got a good offensive line. And we'll see if that group can put up points here in this game against Washington State. Both of these teams off a bye. Both of these teams did not play last Saturday. Washington State's lost 2 in a row against USC and Oregon State, 30-14, 24-10. The quarterback for them, Cameron Ward, all over the place, all over the map. I mean, his completion numbers aren't the absolute best necessarily, but the interceptions are a problem. You have 8 interceptions in 7 games. That's too much. But he does have 16 touchdowns, and he's capable at least of moving around in the pocket. So he's been kind of all over the place. Washington State on the defensive side of the football, this is probably the best offense they've played since Oregon, and Oregon put 44 points on the board here in Washington State against Utah. But Washington State did score 41 of their own in that loss to Oregon here in Pullman at the Palouse back on September the 24th. So, my gut reaction here is maybe we could get up and over this total, 56. Again, Utah kind of changing their spots a little bit. 3 straight Utah games have gone over the total. Used to be a team for years that defense first, offense was lagging behind. This year, it's the opposite. The defense is not that same group for the Utes, but their offense is very dynamic, very explosive. So my early week lean is the over here with Utah and Washington State. Maybe a little defensive. They fall down defensively too after a couple of big games in a row, UCLA and Utah, or UCLA and USC rather, for this Utah team. So I think I would lean over in this game. I wanted to back Utah as well off a bye. I like Whittingham off a bye, but don't know if I want to lay 8 on the road, although I'd lean that way. What do you think here, Conor? Utah, Washington State.
Yeah, this one's interesting here. I was looking at it last night. You talked about Cam Ward just kind of been hit or miss. I think he's very athletic, though, and you mentioned it. The interceptions have killed him, but I think he's been pretty good. And you know what? In spots, I think this Washington State defense has been pretty good. You mentioned the Oregon game. That were very good the first half and gave up, I don't know what it was, 30 points in the second. I thought they were pretty good against SC. I think they put 30 on them. But other than that, they've been solid. And this is where I back them. These are teams that, Utah on the road, stay away, and when they're at home, I back them. Same thing here with Washington State. I don't know if a touchdown's enough. I think it is, to tell you the truth here. Both teams off the bye, like you mentioned. They just got to take care of the ball. And there's a lot of good numbers. Utah off the bye and all this stuff with Whittingham. But I got to go with the Cougs here at home. I just think they can get it done. So give me the 8 points here, the 7.5. And that total's interesting. I think it can creep over, too. I think you're right. I think there's enough offense. Utah's taking a step back. So I think maybe this could be a little back and forth offensive game here.